we negotiate with this guy back and forth, and we convince him. This should have been red flag number one, right? But when you're in an exciting new relationship, you don't pay attention to red flags. So
What's up, junkies? Welcome back to another episode of the RE Junkies podcast. This is a bonus episode. Our friend John Blackburn has agreed to stick around. Thank you very much, John. After his full episode, which he discusses his role from raising private money to helping people generate passive income and generational wealth, and how he is helping other people build that right now. He's also offering a ton of free value in that episode. So go check out his full episode right now before you listen to this episode. It should be the episode right next to this on your podcasting platform. John, let's go. We're going to dive into the bonus episode now. And you've got three options. So let's see which one you're going to pick. Number one is what is your hardest deal or horror story? Two, what is your most profitable deal or most successful deal? Number three, what's the craziest story you have in real estate? What are you going to pick?
well, guys, just because I'm an overachiever, I'm going to try to put all three into one. How's that work?
Let's do
All
it.
right, let's see it. This is a first.
All right. So the story starts in Connecticut, and let's set the frame. So we were doing some organic marketing. This one was a TV. So I do a lot of TV marketing commercials. This guy called in on a commercial, and he owned a townhome. And the way that this kind of little neighborhood was built out is the townhomes were basically 2 units. So they were just two townhomes stuck together in the middle, side by side, and there were like 15 or 20 of these buildings, right? So this guy calls. My acquisition manager picks up the phone. He has a conversation with the guy. We find out the guy owes about $140,000, $130,000 on this thing. We do the numbers on the deal, and we realize we need to buy the house. Our first offer is probably going to be like 90 to 100 grand, right? And just see, hey, can we get him to bring some money to the table? Because the deal definitely doesn't work at 140. So we negotiate with this guy back and forth, and we convince him. This should have been red flag number one, right? But when you're in an exciting new relationship, you don't pay attention to red flags. So he agrees right out of the gate. Boom, I'm bringing 40 grand to the table to get this house sold. And we were like, what? Let's see if this actually closes. So it took him like 3 or 4 months to get this deal done. He had to like borrow friends from family or money from family and friends and all this stuff. And eventually he comes to the table with $40,000. So we wind up buying this house for like 90 grand. And we're like, what the heck? We're going to make $1 bazillion on this thing. It only needed like $40,000 in renovation. I mean, it was a townhouse house that was built in like 1999, so it was only like 20 years old, great condition, and we just had to like put some new flooring, paint, throw some appliances in it, and move on. And so we're like 30 days into this reno, 45 days in, and my father-in-law, who's my project manager, runs in to the woman who lives in the townhome that's attached to this one, right? And he's like, hey, hopefully the construction's not bothering you. She's like, no, it's great. No one's lived in this house for a long time. It's good to see it getting cleaned up. And, the conversation started out great. And as she's stepping away and going her separate ways from my father-in-law, she nonchalantly says, hey, what'd you guys decide to do with the foundation? And my father-in-law's like, what's wrong with the foundation? And she's like, yeah, all the houses in this entire complex suffer from something called crumbling foundation syndrome. And obviously we had no idea what that was. So a quick Google search let us know that for like 20 or 30 years, like back in the 90s and previously, there was this concrete company that was supplying concrete to pour foundations all over Northeast Connecticut. And it took 20 or 30 years for people to realize that the mix that they were using was bad. There were like sulfates or something in it that was causing the concrete to literally just crumble. Like, you could walk up and like just pull
Oh,
concrete off the foundation wall. It was just falling apart. And ours wasn't that bad yet because it was built in 1999. So it was relatively new, for as foundations go. So we're like, oh my God. So then there was a light at the end of the tunnel. The state of Connecticut had set up what was called the crumbling foundation, like reserve or whatever, where you could apply and you could have your foundation tested. If it had this issue, you could then get money from the state to get a whole new foundation. And it wasn't like they were going to put piers or just like, kind of shore up the existing foundation. They literally had to jack up the house, take out the entire foundation, every piece of concrete, and re-pour it,
oh,
reform it, and set the house back down on it. So I was all excited. I was like, yes, okay, problem solved. We're going to apply, we'll get accepted, then we can sell the house. Then the next kind of notch on the belt was that you could only apply and get accepted if you lived in the house. Well, obviously, we're investors. We're going to flip this thing. We ain't going to live here. All right. So we were like, well, it's the top of the market. It's the hot. People were just throwing money at houses for zero reason. I was like, let's just list it and see what happens. All right. So we listed it and we bought it for what? We bought it at 90. We put like 40, 45 into it. We listed it for 229.9.
Oh my God.
wow.
I had 27 offers, I think, on it.
Oh,
We accepted an offer at 40,000 over asking.
oh,
We 169.9. And the guy came
269.9.
in, or 269.9. Yeah, 269.9. And I was like, what? Like, there was like $100,000 spread in there or something, $85,000 spread, something in there. I was like, this guy's out of his damn mind. But anyways, hey, you want to buy it? Go for it, buddy. So he had made that offer, and people are just making offers. They're not paying attention to anything, right? So, he's kind of going through the reports, and I gave him the foundation report. I was like, here's the deal. Like, this is what it has. Here's the website you can go. And, my agent told me, he's like, hey, just so you know, he made that offer without seeing the foundation report or like not reading the whole listing or whatever. And I was like, oh, well, we're screwed now.
Yep.
Uh,
We're
and
screwed.
he calls back like 10 days into this. He's like, how about this? I know we got a lot of offers in this house, and you know, and I guess before I tell this piece of the story, just a quick backup. We had a foundation contractor come out and quote us. It was $120,000 cash to replace this, right? To
Oh,
replace this foundation. So even though I had an $85,000, $100,000 spread in this deal, I was still losing money, like all day, twice on Sunday. So I was like, whatever I can get rid of this for. And I told my agent when she told me, she was like, hey, he didn't read this, but like I'm talking to his agent later. Like, I don't know how this is. I was like, Beth, I have $85,000 in this deal. You can drop the price $85,000 if you want on the phone. Just get this thing sold and off my back as quickly as humanly possible. She's like, all right, we got 85 grand to work with. We'll see what happens. So he calls and they're talking, and Beth calls me like 10 minutes later, and I pick up the phone. I'm like, all right, how bad was it? Like 10 minutes, there wasn't much of a discussion. And she was like, well, he asked for a $15,000 price reduction. I was like, did you accept that? She's like, absolutely. So all he wanted was a $15,000 price reduction on a home that literally had a foundation crumbling around him. He did say that he was going to apply for the state, like, funds to replace it. So hopefully he did, and hopefully he got it. But that was the craziest deal. Something with $100,000 spread, gonna lose money on it. All these different ups and downs, and it's probably one of the biggest profits we ever made. I think we wound up making like 65, 70 grand after it was all said and done. So it was a good deal. It was a good deal.
You had a lot of highs
wow.
and lows in that deal.
Oh God, every
Oh,
moment.
shit.
Yeah, every moment. And the last piece was like the final day, like the bank, the underwriting was like, should we finance a house that has this issue? And I was like, oh my God, it's all going to fall apart at the final moment. But they came through, they got the deal done, and it worked out.
It's all crumbling on me right away.
Literally, all crumbling around me. Yeah.
Jesus.
I was telling my father-in-law, I was like, just so we're clear, if he doesn't buy the house, you're moving your ass right into that home. And we're applying to this fund. And you can move back whenever you're done, but you're moving in.
Do you know would they have allowed like if you had a tenant in there, would they have paid for that if the tenant applied?
Have to own it and live in it.
Own it and live in it.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I read
I can
all
think
the
of-
asterisk fine print at the
I
bottom.
knew
of the
you
page.
would. I knew you would. All I could think of is like those like mesothelioma commercials or all those other commercials. If you or
Yeah.
a family member has had this happen, you may be entitled to financial compensation. And
Exactly.
John's like, I need my financial compensation.
Yeah. And they're 2 years out currently on foundation replacement.
Oh,
So they would
wow.
accept it, and it takes 6 months to get accepted, right? So it was like two
Yeah.
and a half years until it would get done. So God, it was awful.
Dang.
Oh, yeah. You're like, I'm definitely not holding on to this thing for that long. Like,
Yeah. Oh, the fund raised like a few $billions to
really?
fix. Like that's how big the issue was. Yeah, it was like
Wow.
10,000, tens of thousands of foundations. It was insane.
How
That's
did
insane.
you ever find out? Like, how did they find out about these guys? And was the company on the hook, or are they long gone? I mean, are they out of business? What
Yeah,
happened?
that concrete company was no longer. So it wasn't like the concrete company's fault. It was where they were getting their aggregate, like the rock aggregate from. The
Mhm.
rock aggregate was bad. It had too many sulfates in it, which would just cause it to kind of fall apart over time. But yeah, I mean, after I would say a few hundred lawsuits, I'm sure they decided to close their doors.
Close it up. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if they if that was the reason that they were out of business, or if they were just out of business beforehand. But
Yeah, definitely that was the cause of it.
yeah, a few hundred lawsuits. You're right. Oh,
Yeah.
time to close up shop.
Hey, it happens to the best of us, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, John, thank you very much for sharing that. We love a horror story, and that is absolutely a first with all three of those combined in the bonus episode. So, thanks again for hanging out with us. This was a lot of fun for these two episodes. For those of you listening at home, go check out John's full length episode, and we can't wait to have John back. We'll bring you back for another episode or a happy hour or something. We'll have some fun with this. But thank you again. And we will catch you junkies next time on the only real estate podcast of its kind.